Welcome back to another crypto cruise. Today, I'm going to be talking about something different but related. I'm going to be talking about this interview I watched of Howard Lutnick, who, of course, is the new Commerce Secretary. He did an interview with the All On podcast guys, and I think this interview actually sheds a lot of light on a lot of unanswered questions about who's behind a lot of these new policies. So I want to discuss that a little bit. I think it's very interesting and fascinating, and it does relate to a lot of the macro stuff that we're faced with right now. Of course, I'm going to try to apply it to what we're seeing right now, and with Bitcoin and crypto, of course, and also kind of addressed what I'm seeing a lot of. Obviously, there's a lot of people that like a lot of these new policies from Trump, a lot of people that don't like Trump personally. Also, same thing with Elon. Likes Elon, does not like Elon. Sometimes people get really emotional. People don't like my comments or my opinions. I'll try to address all that at the end of this video as well. Just kind of clear the air, so to speak. All right. First things first. So this interview just came out yesterday or the day before yesterday. It's a really good watch. If you don't, I highly suggest, even after listening to me after this video, you should go watch it. It's a very long interview, 2 hours. So I'm going to kind of summarize a few things that I heard that I think are very interesting, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's important. There were several things in there that came out that basically shows that Lutnik is the mastermind behind a lot of these new initiatives that has been happening. For example, Doge. Where did Doge come from? Basically, it came from Lutnik. It came from the task of him trying to balance the balance sheet of the United States. First of all, Lutnik himself, Howard Lutnick, is a very, very interesting guy. Had to overcome a lot of adversities, In college, he lost both of his parents due to cancer, so that's very unfortunate, obviously. But fortunately, he was a little older already in college. During his career, he jumped around and eventually landed at Cantor Fitzgerald. And around 9/11, he got lucky because he took his son to kindergarten, and that was the day the plane struck one of the towers. And the office was like the 101 floor or something, and he lost his brother in the process. Most of the employees and the company was devastated, and he had to basically figure it out and rebuild Cantor Fitzgerald, and he was able to do that and still turn it into what it is today, a huge investment company, investment banking company, I should say, one of the biggest out there, and made a fortune for himself too, and eventually took up this new position that Trump offered him, Commerce Secretary. So the guy, obviously brilliant, Wall Street shark for sure, but had to go through a lot of adversity, and someone that really knows his stuff. So that's who Howard Lutnick is. So during this interview, he talked about needing to balance the budget, and one of the things he wanted to do was to cut out the irresponsible spending, wasteful spending, or fraudulent spending. He mentioned about like payments, accidental payments, in quotes. If an accidental payment was made, there's no recourse. You just send another one, right? So of course he was referring to possible fraud. So he's like, there's not even processes to look at these kind of things. So overall, his original plan was, hey, look at our agencies, look at what's being done, and try to cut out $1 trillion. And he just thought that the best way to do it was actually with Elon. So he actually made calls, got in touch with Elon, got his support, and that's why Elon showed up on stage. And, there's this whole thing about helping with Doge and cutting out $1 trillion, which he accidentally said 2 trillion, and got him involved and all that stuff. So that was Lutnick's stuff. That was his idea. He got him involved, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And even the name Doge, I believe he said he came up with it because he knew that Elon was involved with Dogecoin, and he came with the acronym. So even that was, I believe, his idea. So there's that. The recent thing about removing income tax for people under $150,000 that was announced, that was Lutnick's idea. He just thought that was fair. He asked Trump if he was able to balance the budget, if Trump would agree to that, and he said yes. So that was his thing too. There was talks about redoing or revising GDP calculations and a deficit to make it more modernized, to calculate how strong our economy really is. I remember Trump talking about stuff like that. Yep. That was his. He talked about tariffs. He gave some really good examples about tariffs, about how a lot of the tariffs that are in place from other countries, we as a country, United States, let them do because we wanted them to rebuild after wars. Really interesting. I didn't know that. But Lutnick is a big supporter of tariffs because he believes that long term they will bring a lot of manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. and also even up things, because there are a lot of countries that have a ton of tariffs against the U.S. and they are very, very imbalanced. And he made some examples too, like after World War II, right? Obviously, Japan needed to rebalance, so we let them impose high tariffs on U.S. goods. And then he mentioned the same thing with Korea and Vietnam, Kuwait, and all these countries that that actually had a war have the highest tariffs on U.S. goods. And even countries like India, which we didn't have a war with, they do have like a 50% tariffs, right? So it's kind of interesting. I know it's not only on war, but he's a very big supporter of tariffs. So obviously he and Trump are aligned with that. I don't believe the whole tariff thing is just his idea. Trump was also a very big supporter of tariffs. But yeah, they're definitely aligned with that strategy. And also the last thing was like the gold cards. He was tasked to kind of like come up with a solution and how to offer it, and he kind of explained the whole concept was, you know, not to bring like anyone into the country, but obviously to vet the strong and rich people that he thinks are just go buy the gold cards as a backup in case they need to come to America due to whatever geopolitical reasons. And because those guys come here, they're able to create businesses, bring foreign investments in, and create jobs and so forth. It doesn't mean that they just get an automatic free pass. Those guys, if they commit crimes or do anything bad, they can still get kicked out. They'll definitely be vetted. So, so he mentioned a lot of this stuff. There's more things that he mentioned, but the point of me talking about this is I see Lutnik as someone that, again, has gone through adversity, someone that's obviously very smart. He became the CEO and chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald, has done very well for himself. So obviously someone that's very smart, ruthless, very determined. So he's someone that knows what he's doing. He has a vision, he has a goal, and he knows what he's doing, right? So I think a lot of the things that have come out that has been announced by Trump, they seem random. They seem out of left field. And a lot of people don't think that Trump has the ability to pull these things off. But guess what? They're being led by a guy like Lutnik. And I haven't even talked about Benson yet. I'm sure he is also very much involved in a lot of these ideas. So it gives me, at least me personally, a lot more assurance on the, I guess on the, what is it? What do I want to say? I guess on the fact that these can actually be completed, right? They're not just fantasy. They're not just being thrown out there. That a lot of these goals can actually be accomplished because you have someone like Lutnik actually doing the work, right? Trump has surrounded himself with some of the most brilliant people, and that's what you want to see, right? So whether you like Trump or not, he's definitely making moves. He's definitely making moves. And, you know, like, I think after hearing this Lutnik interview, it has reassured me a lot that a lot of the things that Trump's been talking about with tariffs and like removing income tax, for example, and with Doge and stuff like that, even though maybe the plan, the entire vision, or the execution hasn't been shared completely or done flawlessly, but it makes me reassured that there are some brilliant guys behind the scenes actually conducting the work, right? So that's kind of why I'm sharing it. So yeah, that's number one. That's why I want to share. Number two is, yeah, I've been talking a lot about, you know, Trump, obviously. He has definitely made a lot of moves in crypto, right? Kind of the same thing. He has made a lot of bold promises. And, you know, I think a lot of people now are starting to not believe in what he has said before. But again, kind of like with the Lutnik situation, I think he has surrounded himself with very smart and brilliant people that I think he thinks will figure it out. By the way, Lutnik is not a stranger to Bitcoin and crypto. He has done an interview where he says he has hundreds of millions of dollars of exposure to Bitcoin. So he is not oblivious, okay, to crypto. But, you know, Trump said that he was going to create a Bitcoin reserve. He did. He tasked Benson to find ways to add more Bitcoin without costing any money. And you know what? Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they're going to issue bonds or whatever, so that it's not going to cost taxpayer money to add Bitcoin. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I know Senator Loomis has her own Bitcoin Act. That's a little bit different. That's a little bit different than the Bitcoin bill. So I know it's almost like separate, right? So it's a little bit different, and I wish they would be more aligned. But at this point, they're kind of completely different. Because I think Loomis's Bitcoin Act obviously requires actual purchase and requires Congress to get behind it. That's going to be a lot more difficult, but you know, it's not impossible. And also has gotten a lot of states to get behind it. And, you know, it might still happen. It's a start in the right direction, right? That's the whole thing. It's not going to happen right away. And I think a lot of people forget Trump's only been in office for 2 months, about 3 months. It hasn't been like 4 years. It's not like the end of the term. He's only been in office for 2-3 freaking months, and a lot of things have been done. People want everything to be done right away. Sure, Trump himself has said in a lot of cases, like, day one I'm gonna do this and day one I'm gonna do that. Sure, yes, we've heard that before, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of things have been done. But I think the biggest thing that he has done so far has been with the SEC. I have mentioned this before. I mean, just look at the complete 180 of the SEC. Paul Atkins didn't even start yet, and Paul Atkins could be even more favorable to crypto. The roundtable just kicked off earlier this week, right? But also just all the dismissals that's been happening. Very, very, very anti-Gary Gensler. Okay? So that in itself, if nothing else was done for the remainder of the term for Trump, just the 180 from the SEC alone is a big win for crypto. I mean, the fact that all these crypto projects are now not automatically declared securities, marketplaces, wallets, exchanges are not being sued left and right, decentralized projects and their leaders are not just automatically thrown in jail. This is huge. So, big win overall, but I think we're going to see more. I think we're going to see a lot more. And again, I think Trump himself is not the most knowledgeable Bitcoin or crypto guy, but he is putting people in place that I think will make big moves, like Paul Atkins, for example, a well-known advisor to many crypto projects, and plus, someone like Lutnik himself is very knowledgeable in Bitcoin crypto, and of course, David Sachs, very knowledgeable in Bitcoin and crypto, and it's a new position, a crypto czar, right? There will be things done. Okay, so the last point is opinions about Trump and Elon, right? I've seen some comments. I think, it's like half-half. I think most people in crypto do like Trump because of his pro-crypto stance. But obviously, a lot of people still do not like Trump because of what he has done to the economy over the last few months. Also, a lot of people just don't like Trump himself because of who he is, and I get all that. I try to stay out of politics, right? But it's hard. You can't ignore it. He's president and he's making moves, right? But what I'll say is this, like I said at the beginning of the video, whether you like him or not, as it relates to the economy and crypto, I think he has surrounded himself with some really smart people. I think he realizes that he's not going to be able to do it alone. He won't be able to do it alone. It's guaranteed. Okay? He's not the smartest guy in the room. He has brought on some of the smartest guys in the room to help him to solve what hasn't been solved forever, to balance our budget as a nation, to cut the deficit, which has been increasing forever, to decrease the irresponsible spending, okay, to balance the trade among countries, right? But also to make crypto great, to make the US the leading crypto nation of the world. I mean, whether you like him as a person, whether you like his policies, at least when it comes to the economy and crypto, I think he has surrounded himself with guys that have vision, that has a track record, that I think are going to get it done. That's the more I research, the more I look into the guys that he's putting into charge, at least with the economy and crypto, the more I see good things. Now, other things I don't try to get into, right? And I can see how people are very pissed off about other things. I can definitely see that. But what I do is cover macro stuff and crypto, and I do that every day, and I'm looking at it, and I'm just looking at these moves, and I think they are being done in a right way. In my previous theory about, a lot of this chaos, a lot of the drama to, crash the market, to bring down the 10-year, to bring down the DXY, I think that's still in play. I think that's also Lutnik and Benson's, their model. In fact, I found an article that talks exactly about that Benson said the whole plan is to bring down the 10-year yield. That's what they want to do. So, I mean, again, then there's a bigger plan at play for the economy. There's some drastic changes being made right now. Okay? It's only been 3 months. And I know it has brought down a lot. It brought crypto down a lot. It brought down tech a lot. AI a lot. Brought down the broader market a lot. But in the long run, in a few months, or maybe later this year, if things turn around, and I think that it will, I think it could be very, very good. Very good indeed. We have seen stints like that in the past year. Okay? And, remember from November 2023 to March of 2024, how good that was. And then let's not forget how good it was from October of last year to basically January this year. Those kind of stints. I think we're going to see more of that later this year. It's just right now, because of all the chaos and new changes, it kind of sucks. But I think it's going to get really good. And same thing with Elon too. My relationship with Elon's on and off. Okay, I didn't like it before. I called him Elon before because, he sold off like 3/4 of his Bitcoin. He removed Bitcoin as a payment for Tesla. He embraced all this ESG stuff before, back in the day, where he blamed ESG, saying Bitcoin mining was dirty. I think it was just being controlled by BlackRock back in the day. But obviously, all the stuff with Doge and everything, right? A lot of controversies, whatever. I'm driving my Cybertruck right now. So whether I have a high opinion of him or not, it doesn't matter. Okay? Does it really help crypto in any way? No. I don't see him even supporting Doge these days. I don't even see it. This whole X thing, including crypto payments, that seems to be the last thing on his mind now. I used to cover him a lot because he did talk about Bitcoin and Doge, possibility of integrating crypto wallet and payment into X and all that stuff. All that seems to have gone away. If he's making a difference, Doge, great. A lot of people are not happy about it. If there was more transparency, or maybe more of a vision, or something, I think maybe more people will be more pleased. But the way he's going about it, it turns a lot of people off, right? But whether my opinion on him is good or not, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter to crypto. So I don't know. Some people get really pissed off, like if I talk bad about Elon. Hey, bottom line is, I'm driving a Cybertruck right now. Just because, I don't have to love Elon. I don't have to be an Elon fanboy, okay, to enjoy his product. That's the one thing I hate. I hate fanboys. I always hated people that are like extreme Apple fanboys. I hated extreme Tesla fanboys. Same to the Elon fanboys. I'm just not one of them. I could be very critical of Elon, but that doesn't make me want to like boycott Elon's products. Doesn't make me want to trade in my Cybertruck right away. So it is what it is, right? Yeah, and then the last thing is, a lot of people, this should be obvious, but I'll just address it anyways. A lot of people have been asking, oh, why are you not live streaming every day anymore? Well, it's pretty obvious because right now, it's just all macro stuff, guys, right? And I talk about macro stuff, but there's only so much to talk about. I like doing shorter videos. It takes less time to do. I get the point across, which is what most of you guys want anyways. I've always been told by a lot of people, like, oh, your videos are too long, So now I'm just doing straight 10-15 minutes of what's going on in the world, macro stuff, some crypto, Bitcoin stuff, some encouragement, and that's it. Still doing live sessions, just less. Last week, I did like 3 sessions of 4. I'll probably do the same amount this week. But, I'm still putting on the same amount of videos per week, not giving up, still giving that encouragement, but just doing more recorded stuff. It's a little bit easier for me, less time consuming, and I think it gives you guys your day back also, so that you don't have to stay around in QA for like 20 or 30 minutes. And plus, when I do Q&A, I do like to talk about other stuff like cars and stuff. And then that also pisses off a lot of people, which it really irritates me. Because if I want to do Q&A, I want to talk about whatever I want to talk about, like cars or movies or whatever, And then people get really pissed off, like, oh, is this a crypto channel or a car channel? I'm like, come on, dude. So anyways, so that's kind of what I'm, my thinking. It's just to do videos and just keep it nice and short for now, okay? Until maybe the market gets really, really exciting again, and there's a lot to talk about. There's more things to cover than, I'll start doing the live streams every day once again. But right now, I like the way I'm doing. I know that for sure Fridays, since I only do one video on Friday, I'll be live streaming on Fridays for sure. As for Monday through Thursday, I don't know the schedule. I may just do like, mornings where I do record it, and nights I do live streaming, or vice versa, whatever. I'll figure out a schedule. It'll still be like half-half, something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, guys, this is a long video. I didn't want to make it this long, but hopefully this kind of explains everything. Also, the macro stuff, I know it's not for everyone, but I know most of you guys, I know my audience, because I look at analysts, most of you guys are on the older side. You're maybe a little bit younger than me or a little bit older than me, but you're all like, around this age. So macro stuff is definitely important. And you can't ignore it because it's very obvious that Bitcoin and crypto is very tied to the macro conditions, right? And even if you're not in the US and you may be in Europe or Asia or wherever, it's very obvious that crypto still is connected to the macro conditions of the US. No matter what country you're from, because all economies are very connected to the US, especially right now with all the tariffs and stuff. So obviously I'm going to cover a lot more of it. I'm going to continue to cover it because I think it's all related. So hopefully you guys understand that, right? I'm not trying to be super political, but you can't talk about these new initiatives or agenda without talking about who it's coming from, right? So, all right, guys, that is it. Smash it a like, subscribe to the channel. It's a long video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.